Good evening. I'd like to call this Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019 meeting of Middletown City Council to order. If you please stand and join me in a moment of meditation and the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Cohen, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Ms. Vittori. Here. Mr. Bohannon.
Here.
Mr. Moon.
Here.
Mr. Mulligan.
Here.
Mayor Mulligan.
Here. Our first item is our city manager reports. Mr. Atkins.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. A couple announcements this evening. We were working on one of our previous workshops on the certified local government. I have a meeting set up on January 30th to go to Columbus to sit down with the Ohio Historical Society and go through our initial application from 2011 and get a work plan together to get the remaining provisions passed. Spent some time on it. It looks like predominantly most of the work will be amending our historical ordinance, adding provisions, mostly altering a couple, but mostly adding 4 or 5 provisions that are not in this, that are in the CLG that are not in our current ordinance. As I get done with that meeting, I'll give you an update on where we think that's going to go in the timing on that. We had our housing committee meeting in early January. We finished the 10 or so what I called global topic areas. We've now gone through all of them and had a pretty good discussion excuse me, on what those areas look like, how we would approach them. What we're going to do at this point is take a couple months break, and I'm going to draft a policy based on the last year's work, and then basically send it out in March and let the public and council and the committee and everybody, this is what I heard, here it is on paper, what did I get right, what do we need to manipulate and move around, with the idea that we bring the housing committee back in April and start having some serious discussions about what needs to be modified, and then hopefully by mid-year it's ready for council to take a look at and to be incorporated into the master plan. We've got the workshop tonight on smart cities. I had sent out the Dayton policy on naming right-of-way and public buildings. Sent also an example that they had taken from the application all the way to the end where they had made the name designation. We will probably bring that up at the next council workshop. We'll have that teed up ready to go. And then just a reminder for council that our developer who was going to come for executive session tonight could not make it. So we're going to move that one to February. We will instead have 3 property items for the executive session tonight. So we'll need to make that change in the agenda. That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Atkins? All right. That brings us to our consent agenda. Ms. Cohen?
For your consideration this evening, we have approved the city council minutes from November 15, December 4, December 12, and December 18. Excuse me, December 12, 2018. Confirmed personnel appointments of Brian Mariano, Thomas Gilvin, Jacob Moore, Matthew Fornshill, Matthew Galt, and Jacob Lenz to the position of firefighter EMT in the Department of Public Safety, Division of Fire. Confirm the promotional appointment of Brad Sorrell to the position of equipment operator in the Department of Public Works and Utilities, Division of Sewer Maintenance. Receive and file oaths and offices for Ida Hawkins Banks, Trace Jordan, Amanda Miller, and Holly Schulteis. Receive and file board and commission minutes, Cemetery Board from October 17th, Board of Health from December 11th, and confirm Joe Mulligan as the alternate representative to the OKI Board of Directors.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion for the approval of the issues and actions as listed in the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Ms. Cohen, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ms. Vittori?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That brings us to council comments. Mr. Mulligan?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no comments tonight.
Mr. Bohannon?
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing.
All right. Ms. Vittori?
I want to thank the 3rd grade at St. John 23rd for inviting me in last week to come and talk about city council as they learn about government. They actually sent in letters that I need to get to Amy that they wrote to city council with some of their thoughts and requests. So I will make sure to get those submitted for all of our review next week. There you go.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Moon?
Nothing this evening.
All right. I just have a couple things. I'd like to extend my thanks to the Atrium Medical Center. They sponsored the youth oratory presentations yesterday for Martin Luther King Day. It was unfortunate the ecumenical service got pushed back as well as the march due to the weather, but those things happen in January sometimes. But I know they're working on some alternative plans for that and look forward to some things going on there. So appreciate all the work that went into the planning commission, or planning for that as well too. And along with the snow events we had this weekend and last weekend, I'd like to extend my thanks to the Public Works crews for trying to do what they could. It's challenging environments. The first storm, I think, hit us with a lot of snow over an extended period, and this one hit us with a lot of snow and very cold weather. So makes for challenging times, but really didn't get too many complaints, just one question on how we prioritize stuff. So I think we did what we could to keep up with that. So express my thanks to the Public Works crews for doing all that. And with that, we can move to our legislation for this evening.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 12 items for your consideration this evening. There is one item we are asking you to consider as an emergency. So before commencing, and ask for a motion to waive charter provisions regarding 2 readings and 30 days to enactment for ordinance O 2019-03. Declare that matter an emergency this evening.
I move to waive the charter provision requiring readings on 2 separate days and to declare the previously read ordinance an emergency measure and read one time only.
Second?
Ms. Cohen, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan.
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
And Ms. Vittori.
Yes.
Thank you. So we'll get started with number 1 your evening is ordinance O 2019-02, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Dayton. This is a second reading.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second?
We had a presentation on this previously. Anything to add, Mr. Atkins?
Nothing, Your Honor. Thank
Any
you.
other questions from council? Okay, Ms. Cohen, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan.
Yes.
Ms. Vittori.
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Next matter is ordinance O 2019-03, an ordinance adopting the purchasing and credit card policy for city employees and declaring an emergency.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. In November of 2018, the General Assembly enacted House Bill 312, mandating that political subdivisions, including municipalities, have the legislative authority adopt a written policy for the use of credit card accounts no later than 3 months after the effective date, which was November 2nd. We will need to do this as an emergency tonight to make that deadline. The city has had a strong internal purchasing card policy for many years, and most of our policies already meet the majority of the requirements for House Bill 312. What you have before you is a formal policy created for council to adopt. It adds the remaining provisions of House Bill 312. And again, we are audited every year, and those accounts are consistently looked at and have never had problems. But this formalizes what the legislator has required.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Atkins?
Just one. Mr. Atkins, you probably don't know off the top of your head, and you could follow up with me, and it's not necessarily relevant to the legislation, but how do we handle credit card rewards points? I suspect our internal systems already do that, but I'd be curious just to make sure that those are going back towards city functions, city needs.
I will have to ask.
That's fine, and I know that's not necessarily what this is related to, but on the topic. Thank
I
you.
will track that down for you.
Is there going to just be one credit card for each department, or are individuals going to get credit cards?
Each of these, and it's listed, who
Right.
has it, each of these people has their own credit card.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, Ms. Cohen, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Mulligan.
Yes.
Ms. Vittori.
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes?
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
Number 3 this evening is ordinance O 2019-04, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Badger Meter Incorporated for the purchase of water meters. This is the first reading.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor, the city routinely purchases water meters to keep inventory. They are needed for new installations, repairs, and the ongoing replacement program. Badger Meter, who we have been buying from in the past, has agreed to amend their price with a 3% increase through March 31st of 2020. Even with the price increase, Badger Meter remains competitive. We have gotten very good service from them and dependable meters in the past. The staff is asking that we waive the bidding process and continue to buy our meters from Badger Meter with the amount not to exceed $55,624.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Atkins? All right, thank you.
The next matter is ordinance O 2019-05, an ordinance modifying the designated outdoor refreshment area establishing requirements to ensure public health and safety within such area. First reading.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. Lyric Theater has taken steps to modify their programming to present a more dinner-style theater calendar. They've acquired both liquor and food service license and are offering package deals that would include admission to the door at the conclusion of each evening's program. The whole purpose of the door is to facilitate participants walking around and enjoying downtown. This is a chance to expand the door area further down Central Avenue. Ohio Revised Code 4301.82 allows the door to be expanded pursuant to an application by the executive officer of the city to the legislative authority. You have that in your packet, and we are recommending approval at the next meeting.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Atkins? Glad to hear we're rock and rolling.
Yeah, it should be nice.
Next matter is Resolution R 2019-01, a resolution authorizing an agreement granting tax abatement to Douglas Todd Fisher for redevelopment of 1318, 1326 Central Avenue in the downtown Middletown Community Reinvestment Area. It's also a first reading.
You want to go ahead and roll through all these?
Yeah, you can. Either I can do the
presentation,
presentation, or we can read them all, however you would like to do it, Your Honor.
Why don't you go ahead and present then?
Yeah, just be aware, items number 5 through number 12 all go with the same staff report. As you're aware, in 2010, City Council enacted a CRA program, a Community Reinvestment Area program, that we've had in place now for, this is the 9th year. We've received, I think it's 8, if I remember right, applications for your consideration over the next 2 meetings. Each of those applications will eventually pay a $750 application fee. Mr. Fisher wishes to renovate and update the properties that are listed in your book. The properties are in visible areas of the historic downtown. Many of those properties have been neglected for several years and are not usable until those renovations are made. They're mostly HVAC and roof and windows. Mr. Fisher is requesting a 100% 12-year tax abatement for these properties. The work would be completed by the end of this year and on December 31st. Collectively, it's around $200,000 to $250,000 investment in the downtown. It is all of these agreements, if approved, would be reviewed by the TIRC, the Tax Incentive Review Committee, for compliance. There've been some questions over the weekend about this. We do a number of different agreements, and we've brought you several different styles, from Torchlight to Liberty Spirits. This one is probably these are most like the Spoken Bicycles, which you've done in the past, where you've got a retail on the first floor, residential on the upper floors. This is probably most similar to those. We will have Mr. Fisher at the next meeting. He was out of town this evening, but he is going to be available at the next meeting for any questions you have.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Atkins this evening?
I would just ask that we inquire if the residential pieces are going to be market rate.
Yes. I mean, they
Just to confirm.
talked about that a little bit, but as far as Section 8 and things like that, it would not be, there's not going to be any low-income housing tax credits. There's not going to be anything like that. They're not going to be BMHA units. Now, if someone wants to put Section 8 in there, they are totally able to do that. We don't have any ability, legal or otherwise, to tie this to that in any way.
I understand. I just want to know his intention.
I understand. And we will have him here to answer that question for you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Atkins on that? Yeah, I'll let you roll on the rest of them.
Okay, and like we indicated, 6 through 12 is going to be the same information. Number 6 is Resolution R 2019-02, a resolution authorizing an agreement granting tax abatement to Douglas Todd Fisher for redevelopment of 1364, 1366, and 1368 Central Avenue in the downtown Middletown Community Reinvestment Area. Also for a first reading. Number 7 is Resolution R 2019-03, a resolution authorizing an agreement granting tax abatement to Douglas Todd Fisher for redevelopment of 1372, 1374, 1378, and 1380 Central Avenue in the downtown Middletown Community Reinvestment Area. Number 8 is R 2019-04, a resolution authorizing an agreement granting tax abatement to Douglas Todd Fisher for redevelopment of 1389 and 1391 Central Avenue in the downtown Middletown Community Reinvestment Area. Number 9 is Resolution R 2019-05, a resolution authorizing an agreement granting tax abatement to Douglas Todd Fisher for redevelopment of 12 Clark Street in the downtown Middletown Community Reinvestment Area. Next is Resolution R 2019-06, a resolution authorizing an agreement granting tax abatement to Douglas Todd Fisher for redevelopment of 1720 and 1722 Central Avenue in the downtown Middletown Community Reinvestment Area. Next matter is Resolution R 2019-07, a resolution authorizing an agreement granting tax abatement to Douglas Todd Fisher for redevelopment of 1500 First Avenue in the downtown Middletown Community Reinvestment Area. And finally, Resolution R 2019-08, a resolution authorizing an agreement granting tax abatement to Douglas Todd Fisher for redevelopment of 1316 First Avenue, 108, 112, and 114 Curtis Street in the downtown Middletown Community Reinvestment Area.
All right, thank you.
Just one item. The exemption, it says in the legislation is 10 years, but you mentioned in your report it was 12, so.
10.
10 years.
That's right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on those? All right, our next item is executive session, so I need a motion on the authority of Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G2 to consider the purchase of property for public purposes or for the sale of property, competitive bidding, if premature disclosure of information will give an unfair, competitive, or bargaining advantage.
Second?
Go on, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes. All right, following our executive session, we'll be reconvening up on the 4th floor for our Smart Cities work session, approximately 6 p.m. I think we'll need more than that.
Yeah, assuming he's here, it's coming from downtown Cincinnati. So
Okay.
as quick as we can get in.
We'll say 6:15 to 6:30 maybe, but, okay. And then we'll be reconvening for our first meeting in February on February 5th, 2019. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Oh, we had already passed by citizens' comments this evening. Do you have,
Meeting's over.
yeah.